stuff. So yeah, I'm always down to share what I've found.
Perfect. Perfect. They typically the episodes usually last about an hour. I don't know if that's if you have plans or anything going on. If you
Yeah,
do,
I'm cool with that. I don't
okay.
really have anything going on tonight.
Okay, perfect, cool. If you do have to step away for whatever reason, we totally understand and everything like that. Just didn't want you
Yeah,
to think that this was like a 10-15 minute interview and then we go for an hour.
right. And can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Cool.
All right. Without further ado, Seth, do you have anything before we get started?
I do not know. I'm just holding on to my stories.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a ghost hunter on for today's episode, and I'm not alone though, but we also have Seth here helping us out with the interview once again. Seth, thank you.
No problem.
And our interviewee, Rain, thank you for coming onto the show.
Hello there. Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not gonna sit here and talk too much. Rain here, the ghost hunter who's been doing this for a couple of years and everything like that. Why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into ghost hunting, and then we'll just roll from there.
Yeah, well, I first got into paranormal stuff when me and some buddies of mine were just kind of goofing around, and we came up with this little skit about this guy that's like a ghost hunter, and he's not really like scared of ghosts at all, and he tries to like aggravate them by insulting them. And like we were laughing about this whole like story we made up about this like guy that's like going ghost hunting at a high school, and there's this kid that got bullied and dropped out, and he just like harasses it. And so that's where we got the whole idea, and we thought this would be like really funny to make into like an actual like YouTube series. And so we call it Ghost Punchers. And we went to this like old abandoned, like not really abandoned, but it was like up for sale. We went to this old mansion, right? And we got the owner's permission to do our ghost hunting and stuff there. And we tried that real fast, and it didn't really work out. Xavier, my best friend, he's like my brother. We grew up together. He came with me, and he started like we bought the little EMF reader, right? And he just waves it around, and he's standing in front of this room full of mirrors, and he's like, I don't remember what he yelled, but he insulted it somehow. It was a boy that died in a bike crash in the 1940s that was rumored to be there, and we heard like after he like started insulting it, we heard like two loud like gunshots from like different corners of the house, right? And it was a big house. Like this was like a rich people house, right? And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I saw this little apparition of like what I thought looked like a little boy with like no face, and it like ran across the doorway. And then Xavier had like scratches on his back, and he said he felt like stinging on his back, and we hauled ass outside, dude. We were out of there, and we looked at his back and we saw the scratches, and that's when we were like, okay, this isn't really something you want to mess around with. You know what I mean?
So it initially it just kind of started as like nothing really serious for you. It was more of
Right. We were
okay.
just kind of kids that were just bullshitting around. Yeah.
And then it actually turned into like after your experience with some of this stuff, it turned into like no shit, this is real. And then
Right. But
were you hooked then, or was it just something like you just
we
had?
we were totally hooked because we were like, wow, this stuff is like actually out there, and like it can hurt people. Like Xavier got scratched. I saw an apparition. It was like responding to us on our EMF reader,
Mhm.
and we were like, this is something we should totally like look further into, because like, what if we become like famous scientists or something and discover something crazy, which probably will never happen. But I mean, I've always been into like creepy stuff and like just like horror movies and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm from Maine, and Stephen King stuff is all set up
Oh
here,
boy.
so uh, I've always been real into that. But yeah, we also just thought it was funny, like yeah, we're gonna go ghost hunting.
I find
So what was the build? What was the building? Was it? It was an old house, the mansion.
Right, it was like a it
So it was
was like
like
a
living. Okay.
mansion slash farmhouse, and it
Oh,
was
okay.
made it was built by the family of a World War II veteran, like after he got back from the war.
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah.
It
So
was,
that place has seen a lot of history.
yeah, definitely. The real creepy part was there was this room, and there was like a wall of windows, and it was made for like where they'd put like caskets for like funeral ceremonies.
Weird. So
Yeah,
Oh, is
and
it like that era where they had the they would photograph everyone that they were dead, but they made them look like they were alive, that kind of stuff, or was it just like
uh,
a
I've seen
holding
that,
room?
and I've looked into that a lot, and I have a story about that actually, that era you're talking about. But no, this wasn't from then, I don't think.
so
Okay.
did you guys know, like, when going into this house, did you know that it was already haunted, or like supposedly haunted?
Uh, well, before it was up for sale, the people that used to live there, I was friends with one of them, and
Oh,
he
okay.
told me that his there was this particular doorway where he'd find like his animals just staring at it. You know what I mean? And they'd just be like motionless and just like staring at this dark, ominous doorway. I have a picture of it that I took somewhere, but it was a creepy staircase, and the animal would always be standing in the same spot, like right in the kitchen doorway.
See, Seth, I know you have some cats. I have cats, and I feel like sometimes they just do that where they just stare at things, and that is the creepiest thing. So like that when it, like granted, like my cats will just like stare at the wall, whatever. It's like, okay, whatever. It's probably they see a bug or something.
Right.
But like having to stare down like an anonymous like staircase or like entryway or something like that, that's creepy.
Yeah, especially because it wasn't just a cat; it was a dog too.
And see, that's the thing is, I feel like dogs have like a higher scent. Like I love cats, I do, but I feel like
Right.
dogs have that like granted, like you call a dog to like by its name, it knows its name. Like a cat is like hit or miss. So I feel like dogs are like
Yeah.
intellectually like on another level than a cat. So almost like what you were saying, I feel like a dog could maybe like I don't know sense that stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, it was definitely creepy, and I brought my dog there to test the whole animal thing out, and my dog was also acting strange.
That was actually going to be that's actually one of the questions that I had for you as far as like bringing animals on to like ghost hunts with you. Do you feel like that actually that works? And have you like you brought your
Um,
animal with on like quite a few like ghost hunting adventures type stuff?
yeah, one time I went ghost hunting with a cow, and like when it farted, I could like hear the spirits' voices.
Wait, what?
Huh?
I'm just fucking around.
Okay,
I'm
I was
messing
like,
with
what the
you.
fuck?
Right.
Jeez.
No, but I definitely feel like if you have like a little Scooby Doo dog or something that'll like be into it and actually helpful,
Hmm.
animals can definitely help out. But a lot of times, especially when you're investigating like private properties, they're very iffy on having animals in there. But animals can definitely detect some weird stuff, so it's not a bad idea if
Okay.
you're able to.
Okay.
Did
Now,
this house
yeah.
where this was going on, did it have a crawl space or a basement or anything?
Oh yeah, it had crawl spaces, only they were all boarded up, and
Yeah.
it was really creepy. The basement was probably the creepiest part because it was all segmented. The basement was all like segments of rooms and hallways. It
Hmm.
was like, those pictures of the back rooms you see. It was kind of like that because it's like, why would this person who used to live here clearly build this haphazardly, horribly shaped room just like randomly? And why are there like hallways with doorways that lead to other small little chambers and things? And I assumed that there was some meth lab down there at one point or something, like some Breaking Bad shit. But
Or they were
also,
building
like,
a architecture to confuse the spirits.
maybe, yeah, like the Winchester House.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that like wasn't that the whole like concept behind it was like to like every ghost or spirit had to have like their own room or something like that, and why that's why they kept like constantly building it.
Supposedly they get spirits get like obsessed with trying to make sense of nonsensical like layout like floor plans or layouts, and they can just become I believe she did it because she was told by like a medium or someone that it would deter, it would like take the attention away from her, because her what it was her husband's,
Mm-hmm.
obviously she felt like all those ghosts from his company were haunting her, and so that she
I
built
uh
like this confusing floor plan.
I have something to say about that, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
walk downstairs real quick. I have a sprained ankle, so hold on.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I sprained my ankle last night in a mosh pit that I started. I'm in a punk rock band called Dragged by Chains, and it was a packed one. And as I'm getting off the stage, like hauling my gear off, I got trampled by the next band's mosh pit.
Oh,
Oof.
jeez.
Yeah.
Is it bad or is it just some one of those just
Oh,
like?
it's big and purple and swollen. It's pretty gnarly, but
Jeez.
I'm not going to be a wimp
Got
about it.
ice on it?
No, not at all. It's too cold for that. I live in Maine, like I said, so it
Oh,
gets
that's
frigid up
right.
here.
Yeah, that's gotta be frigid.
Yeah.
You just go outside.
All right. Back, I'm able to talk now.
Okay.
So what were you saying about like the architecture and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Um, I actually have a friend. Uh, his name's Walter Sellens, and he's actually a parapsychologist who has a degree in it and everything, right? And he was telling me about this one place he investigated in a little town called Hamden, and people were saying that they were seeing like the ghost of a footless woman when they'd open a door and she'd come like running out of that closet and they'd see a woman with no feet, right?
Yeah.
And so he looked into the architecture of the building and everything and found that in the era she allegedly died, the floor was completely different when he was like looking at the old photos. And so he did some research and found out that the floor, instead of taking the old floor out, they just put new flooring on top of it, and that would explain why she had no feet when she
Yeah,
appeared.
she's like caught in that plane and height.
Exactly, yeah, like
Yeah.
that's what she's familiar with. So that makes me wonder about the whole thing with the different walls and stuff like you were saying. I'm not saying it's like not true or anything, but I'd be curious about it.
Well, that kind of makes you wonder too, like as far as like when there's like plenty of videos online and like on YouTube, you can look at any of them, but just like when they say like apparitions like move through walls and like all this stuff, maybe that's like part of the reason is because like when they were alive, like they are still working with like the framework with which they like are a ghost and like so like for instance, if it was a big open room and then they corridor it off into like four separate rooms, well when the ghost was
Right.
alive like it can still like it was moving around and all that like without any walls. Does that what I'm saying, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I get that. Yeah.
I wonder if like
Actually, sorry.
no go for it.
Um, there's something really weird about the structures of buildings and just like the properties overall. And I feel like a lot of spirits just connect to the building themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like demonic spirits are able to do that as well because I was one time investigating. This was a huge investigation, right? So this is the whole story. Would you mind if I shared it?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, this is a bit of a doozy, and I was not on shrooms because everyone thinks that I was. They claim that me and all of my friends were just stoned and on shrooms when we tell this story. So, um, basically, there's this old mill called the Vassalboro Mill, and you can Google it and see all sorts of creepy shit. And it's really, really haunted. Like there were so many people that died in this mill while it was operating, and it's in like the center of Vassalboro, like the town. And so the whole town was like built around it. And they'd have like rivers come down from the they'd have sorry they'd have like ships come down from the rivers, right? And they'd do like logging and stuff on the boats. And so there's a spirit in the mill that they named the captain, and he was like the captain of that port, and he was in charge of a lot of the boats and stuff. And apparently he died of a heart attack, and he still haunts like the basements of the mill. And then there's like the spirits of like children that drowned there. There's one guy that was like killed by his coworker, and they got shoved down an elevator shaft, and they say he's still haunting the place. And there were a lot of fires and stuff. There was a guy that drowned in pig fat. Uh,
Jeez.
there was a hospital
Like
on
he
one wing of
drowned or he
offices.
caught fire?
Like he drowned in the pig fat. There are other people that caught fire,
Oh,
but it
okay.
was like a tub of pig fat, and he fell into it and drowned. And the variety of spirits you can see around here is absolutely like batshit. Because like I said, there's the child spirits, and like if you give them like toy trucks and stuff, you can like set up a camera and catch them playing with it in the rooms that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the children that apparently like drowned in the river outside.
Jeez.
But yeah, so I go here for like the second time ever investigating the place. Still terrified of the captain because he's like the scariest spirit they say you can encounter there, right? And when you have like a small, really well-known haunted place, you tend to get to know the regulars that are in and out of it. You know what I mean? And they're very kind. They're very good people, and they take care of the building. It's like an event center now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask to go ghost hunting for like a couple $100 as a donation, they'll let you. So we go into this place, and they don't even let it. They don't even make us pay, and it was weird, right? The whole thing was just weird because I asked to go like last second too. I shot them a message, and I'm with my friend Jay, and he's like a demonologist. He's like a demonologist. He works with like spirits of Ars Goetia, and does a lot of like Solomonic magic and stuff like that. And he was getting bad vibes, right? And this whole thing's on like very native land too, and he's native, and so I was taking his word for it, right? And our friend Billy, who was also there, he'd never gone ghost hunting in his life. So we get to the mill and we meet up with the guy Ray, who's like the owner of the building, and he's like this old wizard looking guy, and the first thing he says to us is he gives us this sinister smile, and he's like, "I'm glad you guys have your running shoes on." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I've met this guy before, and he was a lot more friendly than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that he knew that we were gonna get fucked up. Like he knew that we were gonna get our shit rocked by the fucking ghosts in there, which we did. But yeah, I really because he says that the spirits travel between his house and the mill because he lives in the mill agent's house, and he says there's a portal between that house and the mill, and they travel between it, right? And this is tying in with what I'm getting at with spirits being connected to buildings stress me, but I just need to get all this other shit out of the way first.
Yeah.
So we get there and we encounter a spirit named Lincoln, and we heard footsteps and whispering behind us, and we're in that old like hospital part, right? I was talking about, and we start running down the hallway, right? And it comes to a dead end, and it was so dark in there, dude. Like there's no electricity that's like working. So we were just with our flashlights, and it's like the middle of the day, and it was like pitch black, and we're the only ones in the entire building.
Wait.
And
Wait. So you went there during the day, not even at nighttime?
no, I say it was the middle of the day, but it was like 4, and it got dark around 6.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so we're hearing these footsteps in the room behind us, which is our only way out, and the whispering. And we have a camcorder, and all this is recorded. I can send you guys the link for proof. But if you look in that room, you can see like a foggy pair of legs walking around, like along with the whispering and the walking.
Mm-hmm.
And we turn on our spirit box and we get the name Lincoln when we ask for its name.
So
And
wait,
the
wait,
part that's
hold on. The spirit box is like those apps that like throw out all those like seemingly random words.
no, we had a real spirit box, like a physical one.
But those apps are based on it. I just wanted to make sure we're
Yeah,
talking about the same thing. Okay,
yeah. So I have legitimate like equipment and everything because I got really
gotcha.
into it and I spent a ton of money on it for no reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is like one of the more advanced spirit box. We have it. My friend John Huntington made it, and we get the name Lincoln, and it creeped us out because it was like a harsh male voice. You know what I mean? And then we were hearing like a woman's heels walking around later, and this is where it starts to get like really dark out, right? And we were on the second floor, and the whole feeling was just pure ominous, right? And I start doing some research by looking through like local like paranormal Facebook groups, and we start reading about how like there's a spirit in the tower that was getting like aggressive and violent towards paranormal investigators, and they were hearing it to start like coming, like they'd hear heavy footsteps coming down the stairs when there was nobody there, and so they had to like barricade it. And so we start talking about it, and I think that whatever was up there came down because what happened next was fucking crazy. um Jay sets up this little candle circle with a scrying mirror, which is basically a mirror and the back of it's black. So you can only see like your reflection, only it's so pitch dark you can't see anything except for like a direct light. And so he sets up a few candles in front of it, and we put a camera in front of the mirror, and he starts doing this like seance and just like clearing his head, right? And I'm going to send you a picture of what showed up in the mirror real quick. When we rewinded the footage from the camera.
Okay, I'm interested.
Yeah. And like I said, all of this is on YouTube. This is like valid evidence.
Give me 2 seconds.
I'm not sure where it's sent to. Hold on.
Oh no, I got it.
Okay, cool. So you can see that, right?
Well, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna send it to
All right, cool.
Seth real quick.
But so we rewound the footage and we saw this like glimpse of a face in the mirror for like zero point 0.2 seconds, right? And I pause it and I send it to the group chat. Obviously, this was like after we were done with the investigation. And we're like, holy shit, that's our friend Brad. And we looked at it and we realized that that was our friend Brad. And he is part of our like paranormal group, but he's the only one that wasn't with us that time. And his face was just there in the mirror. And so then apparently what happened after that, if you line the like timeline of the camera up right,
Mm-hmm.
Jay had started getting visions of this like tall figure behind him, and it was wearing like a dark robe, and it had the head of a goat, like a starving goat, and it had like red eyes, and it was just staring into his soul from like behind him. Like in his trance, he could see it standing behind him, and he said it was about 11 feet tall.
Wait, okay,
And
say that last part again.
about what?
The you said it was a goat?
A goat. Yeah, it had the head of a goat. It was like a
And this
man's
is
body.
separate from the reflection, right?
Right. This was while
Right.
while that reflection was in the mirror. That's what he saw in his trance.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Because he wasn't looking at the mirror, he was just in front of it. We had a camera in front of it, and he was doing the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that in his vision, and so he started doing some protection shit, and he poured a circle of salt around him. And me and Billy had walked downstairs because we were like just like asking the spirits just like general questions down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we noticed that there was like a trail of like flower petals, like just out of the range of our flashlights, and we'd see another one on the ground, and there were like these little plastic flower petals. I still have them, and we'd pick them up, and then we'd like find another one, and they were leading to a trail like down to the basement. And so me and Billy were down there asking questions with the EMF reader while Jay was up there meditating, and Jay comes hauling ass downstairs with his hand over his mouth, saying that he's tasting copper. Like he has an overwhelming taste of like blood in his mouth, and he started like throwing up, right? And I could smell it on his breath. Like it was definitely there. This was after he saw the goat thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me what he saw, and he doesn't tell Billy. We don't want to scare Billy because it was like his first time investigating ever, like I said, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we don't want to fuck the kid up too much, right? And so he tells me, and then we go back out to the lobby because we're getting ready to leave because this is like beyond our comprehension, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see Billy, and he's sitting on a bench crying. And we're like, "Are you good, dog?" And he was talking about how he was like seeing like visions of goat people in his head, dude.
Oh.
So we got him right the fuck out of there. But the thing is, he didn't want to leave. We were trying to get him to leave, and he was like shooing us away. At this point, I'd already turned the camera off, but some of it's at the very end of the episode on our channel.
Yeah, you're gonna have
What's the channel name?
Yeah, you're gonna have to send the link to us for all of this.
Yeah, feel free to use any of the material in the podcast too, because it's definitely some scary shit. But what happened after that was even creepier because for the next 2 weeks, I had nightmares about like I remember like two figures like in a field wearing like casual clothing, and they both had the heads of like white goats, and those had been appearing in my dreams. And this was not the scariest investigation I've ever done, but it was definitely the weirdest one. Jay, he said when he went home, he heard the voice of his girlfriend downstairs say, "Good night, I love you," and his girlfriend was at her house. And so we think that whatever this goat thing was had followed us, and it was some sort of like shapeshifter, because that would explain why we saw our friend's face in the mirror too.
Well, this kind of goes into my question that I had for you. Like all that you were saying and everything like that's insane. And I think that's like one of the biggest mistakes that like people that want to like go out and do ghost hunting and they don't know anything about it. I'm not saying that you don't, but it was
Right.
exactly what you had said. Like there's things that are going on past your comprehension that like people who've been doing this for years and years and years still don't understand. Like that's the thing about like the whole spirit world is like there's so much going on, and there's not enough, like, I guess, science behind it, where it's like there's just so much we don't know and everything like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
that like you bringing something home. Did you say you kept the petals that you like, the plastic petals?
Yeah, I kept the pink flower petals that were appearing on the floor, and they were plastic too. So
S-
it's like that's even weirder. It's like where would they have gotten plastic flower petals? You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so I have heard this before, is like things that like you're not supposed to take anything from like any place that's like has spirits and haunted, because you can bring
Right.
things home with you. Has that ever
Oh,
happened
totally.
where it's like do you think
Well, I
that's what happened?
definitely, and I have a lot of experience with that, and that actually ties into the next part of the story. If you don't mind me continuing it, because we went back
Yep.
there. We get our whole friend group. Like there was like 10 of us, right? And we just go outside and we sit in front of the mill, which is like an hour away from where we all live.
Mm-hmm.
And we just sit out there and we're having a little picnic, right? At like the middle of the night. And so then we're like, hey, there's a creepy church down the road that somebody noticed when they were driving here. Like, what if there's something to do with that, right? And it's this old, rickety, like broken down church. And so we start walking towards it, and I see that there's like a camper parked in front of it. And this fucking meth head jumps out of it, and he's saying that he's like the owner of the church, and he like has the like landlord privileges, and he's saying that like people say he's a drug dealer and he's not, but we could clearly tell he was tweaking out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he lets us into this place, and he's telling us all about like the property history and all that, and he tells us that every building that's been on that property has had a fire. And I'm looking at this dry old church in the middle of the winter, and all the boards are like falling out. And we round a corner in this old building, and we see a portrait of a sea captain. And the first thing I think of is the captain from the mill, because the mill is like literally a 2 minute walk away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this gets creepy because I'm wondering like, who is this guy? Why is he out here at the middle of the night? Why is he like, oh, cool, ghost hunters, and just lets us in? Like, did he know we were gonna be here or something? You know what I mean?
No.
And it's just creepy because that whole area and like street has such an ominous feel, and you can see the mill agent's house, the one that the owner of the mill lives in, like right across from the church. And we see that guy Ray out there, like on his side of the yard, and he's like taking pictures of us, like going into the church. And so we're like, what the hell, right? And then we're like getting like kind of like cultish vibes, especially because like we told our friends about the whole Go Man thing, right?
Yeah.
And so we go into the basement of this church, and it's full of old antiques, and we find this portrait of like a woman who's crying, and she's like washing a pair of shoes in a bowl of like water, right? And Jay decides to take it with him. And before we leave, we ask the spirits in the church, like, who's the goat man in the mill? And we got the name Azazel like 3 times. And so we look up Azazel, and we start finding this like biblical figure that's like a guy with the head of a goat, and he has like an apparently I did some research, and he has like an army of like goat-headed people that like roam the desert, and they're like cannibals or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's from the Grimoires, right?
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you're good.
Um, but I did find his sigil, and I'm really into mythology, and I realized it was like a flipped version of the sigil of the Greek god, or not Greek god, sorry, Rome god Saturn.
That's
So that
weird.
so this whole thing's weird, right? And then this tweaker church guy that's definitely dealing drugs out of his RV, he's telling us about like how there's this bag somebody left on his porch, and it has a dead white rabbit in it. And he thinks that a witch left it there because in like Wiccan ship or whatever you call it, um, a white rabbit like symbolizes time. So a dead white rabbit would mean your time's up. And there's a volunteer at the mill named Samantha, and she's a witch. And we know that the mill people don't like the guy at the church because they were taking pictures of us.
Huh.
And so it's just like the more we looked into the rabbit hole, I guess you'd say, the weirder it got. And when Jay brought that painting home with him, um, he was hearing like scratching and stuff. He brought it into my kitchen and the light started flickering. It was crazy. Like there was just I have it now and it's outside in a shipping container outside my house
Oh,
because I don't want it in here.
I was gonna say, do you have you have it inside your house?
No, but so the church spirits definitely knew the goat man,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we know that the spirits in the mill are allegedly connected to the mill agent's house where Ray lives. And so we kind of put the pieces together and we found that a lot of these buildings in this area is haunted and like collectively. And Azazel definitely has something to do with it because that's way too many like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you saying that there's like a witch in league with Azazel?
I
That
believe so. We don't know, but so we went back to the mill a third time, right? Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah. No, you're good.
And we're talking to the owners of the mill, and Samantha's there, and the whole time she's just smiling at us. Samantha's the one we think is the witch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're telling Ray, and he tells us like, "Oh, you guys look like you bring out dark energy anyway, because well, we're a bunch of punks." And
Yeah.
yeah, so and Samantha pretty much denied the whole thing, but I think that Azazel is somehow also connected to the tower in the mill because they were saying that's blocked off because there was like a malevolent spirit up there. But that also makes me wonder like about the captain because they all claim that he's like this sinister spirit that follows people home and like harasses them. And dude, these people that own the mill, they have like case files on each spirit with like pictures of them and everything. I'm not even shitting you.
Did you get to like see these files and everything?
Oh yeah, yeah. He Ray, the owner, he showed them to us, and I really just can't deny anything about it. The
Yeah.
whole thing's really creepy because like he'll show you like old pictures of the people that work there, and there's like orbs that show up in the pictures, and there's like faces that look like the faces of the spirits that are rumored to be there, and you can tell by features like different mustaches and stuff, and it's
Are these
really
like
creepy.
books? Are these books that
Yeah,
like record keeping he does?
basically, yeah. He's a
Oh man, do
historian.
you have any copies?
I don't, but he actually offered me to write an entry in one, and so if I do, I will be taking pictures.
Yeah, be like, dude, can I like show some of my friends this?
Right. No, he wouldn't let you. That's the thing. He acts all sacred about it, but if I
Yeah.
do end up going back there and submitting this whole Goatman thing as an entry, I
Yeah.
will take pictures and I will send them to you guys because I
If
am probably more curious than you are.
yeah, I would think. I mean, if there was ever a place with an underground coven of witches in league with Azazel, it would be Maine. I would just be like,
Yeah.
Maine. That's where they are.
No, so I start looking on like Reddit and stuff, and I'm finding these forums about people who like also find like goat-headed people, and they like crawl on the walls, and they're always wearing the dark robe. And then I start like watching like Zach Bagans stuff, right? And I just because I think it's funny. And then he has this movie he made about like a demon with a goat's head and who's like moving objects around and stuff. And it's just they also said it was like 11 to 12 feet tall, like the one we saw, you know?
Yeah.
I you you brought it up, so I'm gonna bring it up. I'm
All right.
the show Ghost Adventures. How what are your thoughts and feelings on that? Because like I feel like when that show first started, very legit. Like they were actually like it was real. But to like I feel like now to like have them encounter something every single episode,
Right.
they got to be like, they got to be cheesing it somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely. There's actually jobs in Hollywood that are for people that go on like reality TV shows like Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures and like stage things on purpose. They have some huge crazy finding. So it is legitimate, but there's
mhm.
somebody who's like setting it up. So it's not actual like paranormal stuff. They're just walking around and somebody basically booby trapped the place.
Okay, so it's more or less like yes, they are going to haunted locations, but there's like, it's okay. I see what you're saying.
Right. And they stage so much because that guy I mentioned, John Huntington, that he builds spirit boxes. He actually quarantined himself during the COVID-19 quarantine in the house from The Conjuring for a year. And this is a friend of mine, and he told me some really crazy shit that happened in the Conjuring house, and how the movies that like depict the spirits in there are nothing like what was actually there. And he just told me it was the scariest experience of his life. And
Like
so
worse.
Ghost Adventures came there, and they made him a priest, like for their show. Like he's not actually a priest. They pretended he was one and like interviewed him and everything.
I okay. How do for both of you? Would you do it? Would you stay in a haunted house for a year?
A year?
I honestly, there is one house I would love to. Um, I investigated a house. Oh, sorry. Did you want to go? I'm sorry.
Hmm?
Seth.
Did you want to say something?
Oh no. No, I wanted to know the parameters around this deal. A year.
Oh,
That's like, what do I get?
Nothing. It's just, I guess, like you're doing your own. Like,
Do I have domain over the place? I can do whatever.
yeah. Like you
Oh.
sign a 1-year lease to live there. Like, would you do it?
I mean, like, well, I mean, like for what? Am I paying them?
No. Like, so okay. Well, all right.
So it's free. I get to stay there for a 1 year for free.
Yes. We'll say like
Essentially, it's my Overlook hotel.
yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. Probably. It would depend on the place. I have one place in mind. I probably would.
I just
If I could like be fully armed, I know I'm talking about ghosts, but if I could be like fully packing, there's some soothing thing about always having a firearm near you. So I would, if I could do that and like have one room that I could like board up
Mm-hmm.
to where nothing could come in or out, I think I probably would.
But you're dealing with ghosts. They walls won't stop it.
Hey, remember when we first talked? I was like, "Oh man, if I could get, I would really want proof. I would love to see something." So if this is my way of like getting some kind of confirmation there, I probably would.
Hey, man, like I said, that series, that kind of little documentary thing, it's called Hunting Hollows, the ones that me and my friends did with the goat man and all
Okay.
that. None of that staged at all, and I think you'd really dig it if you're looking for like solid evidence, because a lot of people have told me that's what convinces them.
Yeah, I mean, I need links. This is what I need.
Right.
I need
I'll
some
send you some
links.
after the interview for sure.
Yeah.
Um, there's one place I would love to stay for like a year, and it was this one house I investigated. And it was this lonely old lady that lived by herself, and her whole family lived down in Texas. And she lived like maybe 23 minutes away from my place, right? And she calls upon my Facebook page, and she's like, "Hey, would you guys like to come check this place out?" Right? She's like, "I think there's a sinister entity here." She's like, "It doesn't really scare me, but it's annoying," right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we go, not thinking it's gonna be a big deal. And this whole house, dude, as soon as you walk in, it was like the fucking monster house from that Pixar movie or whatever. It was like there were just old antiques everywhere. She collected like weird antiques that were like creepy. And then we get to this pair of two dolls sitting in a chair. And they're so creepy looking that I don't even want to go near them. And she's like, "Oh, they just came with the house. Like the previous owners got them from the previous owners, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, great." And so uh I start investigating, and we go upstairs because she's saying that the spirit lives upstairs, and she actually sleeps on the couch on the first floor because she's too scared to go up there. And so we go up there, and the whole place is dusty, and you can tell nobody's been up there, right? And we start like looking around the rooms, and the longer we're up there, the more we just like feel watched, right? And my buddy Xavier, the guy I mentioned earlier, he plays drums in my band and all that. He said that he saw a shadow apparition of a child like run past like a door, like a hallway, like from door to door. And so we leave one of our guys up there in one of the bedrooms, right? And he's just up there all alone. This is an old friend of mine, and he said he heard a woman crying from the other room, right? And so we go into that other room, and the whole room feels hot. Like there's something burning in there, and we all feel watched, right? Like there's something watching us. And this is summer, so there weren't any heaters on it like at all, right? And um, we just felt like there were eyes everywhere, and it was so uncomfortable. And we got the name Melissa on our spirit box, and we asked her how she died, and she said fire. And so we walk downstairs and go see the homeowner because she's just like kind of chilling, right? And we're like, "Yo, we heard the voice of a girl, and it said her name was Melissa, and she died in a house fire." And she's like, that was my adoptive niece, right?" And she looks so happy, and she's like, "Yeah, Melissa died in a house fire, right?" And it was an unsolved arson case. And so we're like, well, what the fuck? Because if your family is down from Texas, then why is she up here in Maine,
Mm.
living in an old house, not inherited by your family, and terrorizing you, right?
Yeah.
And so we start investigating into it further, and the homeowner goes upstairs with us, right? And I still have nightmares about this place, dude, because I put the spirit box down, and she goes like, "Hey, baby doll, like, I love you," right? And we heard the voice of Melissa, and it said, "Mama," right? And then we didn't hear anything else from her. And this homeowner, the old lady that lives there, she's like on the verge of tears, right? And we hear the voice of this like hollering, evil sounding entity, right? And it's just like yelling about like just curse words and shit, right? And it's like saying like full sentences. And I went into like a state of shock, so I don't even remember what the fuck it said, right?
Mm.
And I stopped recording because I was like, well, maybe this isn't something we should televise, like it's a mom talking to her who she thinks is her dead daughter. Like that would kind of be a dick move, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I can't even have proof to just show my friends. And so I walk outside on the porch and I'm fine, right? And they're asking me like, "Yo, how'd it go?" Because it was just me up there, right? And I just started for no reason bawling my eyes out, and I couldn't like stop. And so I think whatever spirit was up there was like playing with my emotions, like that goat thing did to Billy.
See,
And so
I
what we concluded,
yeah.
sorry,
No. Go keep going.
we looked into it a lot further, right? And we found out that before Melissa had even died, like people that used to live there were saying like there was like fucked up shit going on there. Apparently, there was a mother that was pregnant with twins, and she was home alone, and she said that something invisible apparently attacked her in the bathroom, and she tried to leave, and she fell down the staircase and had a miscarriage because of it.
Oh,
Jeez.
And so that would explain the child apparition that my buddy Xavier saw,
Mm-hmm.
because we were hearing like what sounded like an infant crying on the spirit box while we were there too, and we just chalked it up to like radio static. Because like, why would there be a crying child on there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like the more we looked into it, the more fucked up it got. And there was this creepy old attic that looked like something from Alice in Wonderland, and there were flies, like thousands of them, just dead on the floor everywhere, and there were like crumbled up pages of like Bible papers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were thinking it might have been like Beelzebub or something, because that was some really scary shit. Like the whole house just felt evil and menacing, and like there was a pit in my stomach the whole time I was there. And we all agreed to just never go back there again. But I've been so damn curious about it after finding out like all this other stuff that like I really want to go back there. And the family that lives there now, because the old lady moved back down to Texas with her family, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that live there now, apparently they leave all the lights on at night. You can see it through the windows, and they will leave randomly. Like the whole family will just pack up and leave in the middle of the night.
I mean
Like
that.
it'll be like 3 in the morning, and they'll just dip.
This like that. Okay, so like that. A couple of things for like. I feel like when like an entire family like leaves their house and everything like that, it's just like that. That solidifies that like there is something going on. Like when people cannot like physically stay at their house like throughout the middle
Right.
of the night and just everything like to me that's like okay, yes, the place is haunted. But also too, like on top of that, it's one of these things where Seth, you were kind of saying this a little bit before the show. There's a difference between like just like ghosts and spirits, and then like demonic presence and everything like that, where like they will play on the emotions of people to like, because like, okay, for instance, the when she said like mama, but then like it just turned into something evil. I feel like there's just like there's a piece of like the spirit world, or like something that we just can't comprehend, that like they can see our emotions and our
Play with
feelings.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. And like I feel like that's such like it's that, and I feel like that's why there's so much unknown and everything like that, because it could be something where you think you're communicating with like a loved one, but it's really not. It could be
Right.
something completely different, and I think that's like one of the scariest pieces about like all of like the ghost hunting, the spirit world thing, is like because we really can't like physically maybe like see them entirely or like know what they are. There is that
Yeah.
piece where it's like this could possibly not be who I think I'm talking to. So I don't know. I just find that whole like aspect of like when the communication piece comes into play, it's very yeah.
Well,
I
it's dangerous.
go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done there, but it's really dangerous because like when you talk to who you're thinking is a deceased loved one and it's a demonic entity, if you communicate with it, you're literally opening like a path. You know what I mean? Like they can contact you without your will from there on out. And I once worked on a case with someone who a chess piece moved, and when they woke up in the morning, they just found it. Right. And they moved another piece on the opposite side of the board, and then shit just started like going crazy in their house, right? And they're hearing like whispering in the walls and shit.
Mhm.
So like with that, you know what I mean? It's like you got to be very careful with who you think you're talking to, you know?
That's the way
Exactly.
I grew up. My family was always like, uh, human spirits are either one place or the other, but the lure of like certain entities are to like trick you to that you're talking to someone that you think you know. That's what I remember being taught growing. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, that's like a terrifying idea because however you want to articulate it, like angels, demons, or whatever, like the idea that there's like a lower dimension of like more dissidence that wants to like come up and connect through. We're like the middle ground. That's just absolutely terrifying because it's something you can't like control. Like, you know, you like to kind of uh if you were to plan how to like protect yourself against something, you like to kind of have all these fantasies, but really in a situation, you know, you there's nothing you can do.
Right.
I had
Yeah,
a, I
that's
had
really
a I
scary
had
to think about.
yeah, I had a science teacher, and he had a secondary job where he did cleaning and stuff. And he was like one of the cool uh teachers, you know, you remember. And
Right.
he said that he cleaned a church, and this place that he was at, it was, he said it, and he would always have to clean at night because he had to work during the day, then do his other job at night. And he said it was the most terrifying was cleaning the church. There would be all these kind of noises, things that didn't make sense. Doors would like open or close, or he would hear them open or close, and then go and like nothing was there. Just like really weird stuff. And he always was like, I always carry my gun when I go to that job. But he's like, if something was to get me, that would be completely useless. But for some reason, you know, your instinct is to
Right.
just have something. But yeah, he was always freaked out by um that particular place.
I, that and see like to me like we'll just bring this up like with churches and everything like that. It's I even if like no one per se like died there, or like almost what you were bringing up, Rain, too, where how like the spirit like has nothing to do with where she moved, but yet it was there and everything like that. It's just like it's so interesting how like certain things can get attached to a place with it maybe not ever being there, or like have died there and everything like that. So like I feel like that happens a lot with churches, no one might have died there,
Oh, definitely.
but their spirit is there. And I wonder if it's maybe has something to do like with churches. It makes a little bit more sense because there's a lot of like funeral services, like that's where they do like the last little, like the eulogy, and like before they get put in the grave, like that's where, all their loved ones are. So maybe that like conjures them up, and that makes them stuck there in a sense, or I don't
Right.
know. But or maybe if
I've
some
always been, I've
Go
always
ahead.
been told like they're like spiritual epicenters. Churches are like heavily charged that way, for lack
Mm.
of a better word.
Yeah, they're spiritually charged. That's the thing. It's because so many people like really put the thought into it and like genuinely pray. Like it is a place of worship. You know what I mean?
So
It's
I,
a place where people go to ponder the afterlife.
I got a question for you, Rain. Do you think that it has to be something that you believe in or think about for like these things to happen, or for it to like so like for instance, like what we were saying, like it's a spiritual place and everything like that. So like, okay, let's just take the place that I live in right now. I've not had any sort of like paranormal experiences here or anything like that, but if I start thinking upon it and like doing things, could I essentially like open myself up to having like paranormal experiences, or could I open like a doorway here that was never there?
Well, in order to open up a doorway, there has to be some sort of seance or something.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, there has to be something that either was a seance or mimics a seance, and that's what people don't get. Like sometimes, like there's like if you put like two mirrors side by side and just like like designing a house or something,
Mm-hmm.
that can mimic a seance depending on how you do it. You know what I mean?
So
So it's like
it's like two mirrors
with some,
facing each other.
yeah, that creates a portal.
What? Weird. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't believe in it either, and I thought it was bullshit until I like, experienced a place that had that. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the result I came to. Um, well, if you really start like talking to spirits and things, they start to come out more in your personal life, like other spirits. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I had a job one time, and it was at a restaurant, and the back of the house was so creepy, and I could have sworn I was like sensing like a figure of authority, right? And like just like walking around, like I'd see like from the corner of my eye like a shadow person standing like by the back entrance, or like I'd hear like a clap in my ears, or like a spoon would randomly fall or something. And so like one time a whole shelf shook in front of me, and I thought I was just like, becoming a schizo, and I was like, damn, I really need to stop doing all this ghost stuff, right? And then one of my coworkers mentions like might have been the ghost or something when I asked like what was that sound, and apparently other people there had also sensed the spirit. So I think that if you have people around that are more sensitive to different types of paranormal events, then it's more likely to, leave like an open door for the spirit,
Okay.
if
Well,
that makes any sort of sense.
yeah, no, it does because funny enough, we had a psychic on who we did an interview with, and it was I feel like it's almost more like this, almost on the same lines where it's like there's some people who are just more sensitive or just have something about them that they have this ability and whatnot. And I think that's something that's really interesting just about like the world in general, where it's just like there's so much that we still don't understand, and there's just like I feel like there's a piece of the world or like the human experience that we just like we don't understand. Like what is it like? There's still like even like the brain or like why we have to sleep. Scientists have an idea, but like there's no shit like why we need to do some of the stuff that we do as humans. So I feel like to say like there's not like a spirit world, or like some people don't have these abilities to communicate and everything like that is just like I don't know. To me, it's very possible and everything. So, but as far as you, Rain, what would you say attracts ghosts? Because I feel like there was a piece where you had said that, like you were like just like talking, like asking it questions. Do you feel like that like brings up
Um,
like ghosts are more willing to like talk, or do you like feel
yeah,
like provoking them in a sense? Because I've heard provoking really gets ghosts going too.
I think provoking definitely, and the or if they just don't like literally anything can provoke a spirit, and you might not even notice it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be at a place where there's already an emotional disturbance between the astral plane and the third dimension, if that makes any sort of sense. Because the conclusion that I've came up to, and a lot of other parapsychologists have, is that the astral plane is connected to the to
Come
our plane through their emotion, memories, and experiences here. You know what I mean?
on. Mm-hmm.
So if there's some sort of disturbance, or if there's something that breaks their peace, that's what can provoke them. And once that door's open, it's very hard to close. And so, like, if you're in a place that's already been disturbed due to like construction, or it could be literally anything, like somebody put a new floor in, like I said before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something like that. That is what can disturb a spirit. And like, let's say you have someone like goes in there and they're just like being mean, or they just like, it's someone who in life the spirit wouldn't like, the spirit's more likely to fuck with them. You know what I mean?
Ooh, I just had
Interesting.
like a horrifying thought. You know, like whenever you have a dream where you're like, oh, this isn't right. It's just some weird hazy thing that like really upsets you in the dream, right?
Right.
What if that's just the perception like eternally for ghosts? Like the woman that has no feet because the floor was raised. Like she's just like in this kind of dream state going like my feet are gone and this floor doesn't make sense and she's very upset about it, but that's just her perspective. It would be like if we were just having like an eternal dream of some bizarre, that's like just absolutely terrifying. So never mind.
That is really
I'm
scary
done.
to think about. But it,
Well,
it would add up because I've actually had several like spirit encounters in my dreams. Um, I actually, a friend of mine who recently passed away in a car crash, um, like just a few months ago, actually. I believe that he appeared to me in my dreams, and it's not how you'd think. It was really disturbing. I had several dreams where I'd be on like a dirt road of sorts and like going somewhere, or, like with a buddy of mine on some adventure or something. And then this dog, like four-legged, generic, smallish dog with gray fur, and the face of a decaying man would show up, and it would start chasing people. And I had one dream that there was like somebody just like checking out my house, right? And they were just like hanging out, right? It was like a new friend we'd made, and they came up from the dark basement, and they came up the stairs, and right before I woke up, that dog with the decaying human face bit their leg and dragged them down the dark stairs, and then the door shut on its own. And so I did some research, not even ghost related, because I'm like, well, what the fuck? This dog keeps appearing in my dreams. And I wasn't even thinking about my friend. I was thinking like all these like demons that I've encountered, all these horrifying spirits I've encountered while I've been ghost hunting. And I was scared. And so just to make sure like this wasn't something people commonly see in their dreams, I started doing some research, right? And I was just trying to figure out like what this can represent, you know?
yeah.
And I found that there's a Japanese urban legend, and it's like one of those like Japanese spirits in mythology, right? And they're they're dogs with human faces that are known to chase like bikers and things, and they're rumored to be the spirits of road crash victims. And then I was
Mm.
thinking about my friend that just died in like a high-speed car crash, and I was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Because I was already very emotionally distraught because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And that just made it worse, to be honest, because that was horrifying.
I bet, man.
But yeah, another time, um, my friend who got me into demonology, Jesus Christ, dude, I had a whole phase where I was practicing stuff like that, and I'm kind of still in it, just like experimenting with it, right? And we were investigating a lake where people are rumored to do like black magic there. And so Jay invokes Barbados for protection, and he's like a spirit of music and wilderness. And you can find him. He's one of the spirits of Ars Goetia, um, from King Solomon, allegedly, anyway. And
Oh, the
so
Lesser King.
Barbados, yeah, exactly. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And Barbados. As I'm falling asleep one night, I get this weird vision of like this scorpion thing with like 6 legs and like gray scales and like mouth with teeth like spaghetti coming out, and it's like crawling towards me in this black void. And so I get up, right, and I'm seeing this unnerving, smiling face like as a vision in my head, right, like through my third eye, maybe, who knows? And it's telling me to burn sandalwood, just burn sandalwood, burn sandalwood, burn sandalwood, right? And that's like sandalwood incense, come to find out, is like the incense of Barbados. And so I light it, and it says like I light one that I'd already like burnt half of, and it says like burn a full stick, and I'm like, no, go fuck yourself, right? Because I'd already pieced together that this was some sort of like entity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, go away, right? Shoo, get out of here. And I've practiced like demonology before, and I know what it's like to go in one of those trances or have a like lesser spirit communicating with you. And so I just ignore its request and I fall asleep, right? And either that night or the night before, I can't exactly remember, I had a dream that I was going to my girlfriend's house and my friends were dropping me off and they pulled over on the side of the road because someone had to take a piss. And I take a picture of the forest and I see this robed figure and it's like in the woods. And so I take a few more and in each picture it's getting closer. And you know what it almost looks like? It almost looks like the Emperor from Star Wars. And so I'm like, this is weird, right? We should come here and go ghost hunting sometime, right? And I didn't even realize I was dreaming. That's the thing. It was like such a realistic dream. So they dropped me off at my girlfriend's house, right? And I'm in the kitchen. She's like asleep. I'm making her a sandwich, and things just start flying around the kitchen, and doors are opening, right? I'm like, this is weird, huh? So I walk into her room, and I give her the sandwich, and she wakes up and smiles, and I give her a hug. And dude, fucking this bitch in my dream, fucking she like lifted me up like by the neck and her fingers were like sharp like the ends of them and her eyes like rolled into the back of her skull, like literally fell out, and there were just like black sockets in her face. Her smile was getting all like contorted like a Cheshire smile. And I don't remember what she said, but it's like, I'm not who you think I am or something like that. There's something that like they called God in the Bible, and I remember it because of the Bible and mythology class I took. But it's like, uh, I am, so am I, or something, and it was like a
I am
lost
that I
translation.
am.
Yeah, that's what it was. Only it was something like that. Only it was like a longer version of it,
Oh, okay.
and
Dude, I'd be careful.
it
There's
was
not a
just
lot of stuff
laughing.
there's not a lot of stuff I'm afraid of, but I don't know, man. I'd be really
Right.
careful.
And it was just laughing at me in like this
Damn.
twisted maniacal laughter, and it was just getting like, it sounded like there were 3 of them laughing at me and there was only one, and it's like strangling me, and I start to like literally fade out like in my sleep. I was like fading out, and I could feel the fingers around my neck, and I finally like jerked awake and I was literally being strangled. I don't know how, but
Did you
something
know
was
you were
strangling me
asleep
in my
in your
sleep.
did you know that was a dream
No, I
while it
didn't
was
know it
going
was a
on?
dream until I started getting choked. So until
Okay.
the thing pretending to be my girlfriend picked me
Yeah.
up by the neck and started choking me, as I was fading out, I realized it wasn't a dream and I need to wake up or I'm gonna die. And I thought I couldn't wake up and I was going to die. And I
Weird.
finally woke up, and dude, I was literally gasping for breath, dude, and my face was like purple. And I could literally still feel the fingers around my neck. And I had to go to high school the next day. And I was like not prepared for that. Like throughout the whole day, I could feel those fucking fingers around my neck, dude.
And see,
And
like,
so I asked, sorry, this is the last part of the story. I know
you're good.
I drag on stories. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you're
So
good. You're good.
I asked Jay about it, and he's like, because Barbados is the entity that he worships, and he's like, Barbados is a shapeshifter. So that would explain the girlfriend thing. He's like, he often appears as a robed man in the woods, and he is a dream demon. He does appear in your dreams to warn you about things. And that girl that I was with at the time ended up being like very, very toxic, and she did some really fucked up shit. So I think that it was Barbados trying to warn me, but it was very scary.
Have you ever seen Drag Me to Hell?
No, I'm
You
assuming it's
should
like a
watch
movie.
that. Yeah, it's a great what's his name? Evil Dead guy. Damn it. Anyway, it's a good movie.
Cool.
um, Bruce Campbell.
Sam Raimi. But
Sam-
yes, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell's just always attached to Raimi's stuff, but yeah.
Um, Yeah, see, and like that's a pretty. Now, do you think it's because you're going into and you're like doing all this demonology type stuff that like this is happening? Or do you think
Um,
like or do you think like even if you weren't doing it, like this would still be going on?
well, I started dabbling in it after meeting my buddy Jay,
Mm-hmm.
and he is definitely the one that got me into it. And I think because of him, that door was also open to me because of how close we were as friends, and because he was like my number one, like by my side paranormal buddy. You know.
Okay.
Has he had any like terrifying issues himself with being exposure to this?
Um. Yeah. The whole goat man thing really messed with him.
Yeah.
Besides that, he was really chill about a lot of things. There were a few spirits that really bothered him and just rubbed him the wrong way, I guess. But
Mm.
for the most part, it was just fun and games for him. Uh,
Hmm.
I couldn't, it wouldn't let me send the link at all when I sent it to you,
Mm-hmm.
but I sent you the link to the channel. You should be able to see it, I guess.
Okay, and then yeah, for our audience members too, we'll post that in the description so they can take a look at it and anything that you had brought up
Right.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. There's another thing. Nature spirits.
Wait,
So,
nature spirits.
yeah, like goblins and stuff.
By all means,
And
please explain. Yeah.
please elaborate. I know. Because that lake that we investigated, the one that people practice black magic and stuff at allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
Jay said that in his trance he saw this weird little. He said he asked the spirits around there to show themselves, and he saw this weird little goblin thing. That's what he told me, right? And so I'm like, okay, weird little goblin thing, got it, right? So as we're walking out of this place, we're walking down this wooded trail. We're like 2 miles out from any sort of civilization, and um, on that little gravel trail I was on, I saw this little fucking naked thing that looked like a human, only like really skinny, like really fucking skinny. And it had like no hair, nothing. It looked like a naked cat human thing, and it didn't have a face, dude. And it ran and around like onto the trail from the woods, and it scared the fuck out of me. And I was the only one that saw it, and they were laughing at me. And I was like, no, dude, we need to get the fuck out of here, right? And the thing didn't have a face, and that's what scared me the most. And so then Jay starts talking about the goblin thing again. And I'm like, well, maybe it was some sort of like skinwalker goblin thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, see,
And
go ahead, keep
yeah,
going.
so we look into it more, and there's actually a documentary called Hellier where they talk about basically exactly what I saw and how they call them goblins. Like they literally had called them goblins in this documentary we'd never seen before. And they call them like they say that like they're skinwalkers too, and they live in like the woods and old mines. And one thing they do, they're also called Tommy knockers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like different types of these nature spirits that like live around like old abandoned mines and like in lakes and like places of nature. And they try to lure people into like the woods or like caves and stuff by like imitating voices. And what's scary about that is that while we were there, we were occasionally hearing the voice of like a woman in the woods, like hey, over here and stuff like that, right? And then there was like nothing there. So we think that there's some sort of like skinwalker type of entity that tends to manifest as like a person with no face on all fours. And it's just really scary stuff.
Oh, yeah, like so, like to me, like it seems like it what you're describing. Like I feel like almost people might mistake some things as like cryptids. So like that, I feel like it's almost kind of getting to like
Right.
the cryptid realm now because like Skinwalker, the Rake, cave crawlers, whatever you want to call them, it almost seems
Yeah,
like
cave dwellers and all that too. They're all the same type of thing. That's what I'm kind of trying to get at here. Like all of those, they all come down to these little goblin creatures.
yeah, that's weird. Yeah. Now, I got you said that you had described a couple of like the ghost, the paranormal stuff that you had experienced and everything. Um, but what has been what you would say is your scariest experience or the most like because you described one that was very weird, paranormal, and everything like that. Is there any experience that you have that stands out as far as like, nope, we'll
The
never do this again. I will never go there again. I will never like. anything like that?
Well, my mind blocks out a lot of how traumatic these things actually were, and I feel like I fucked myself over a bit by getting into all this just as a joke because like I genuinely have a hard time sleeping at night sometimes because of the things that me and my friends have seen and
Mm-hmm.
how we've proven over and over again that these spirits follow people. But one that really scared me is when I decided to do a seance and I did an exorcism of a house where people had been seeing a hooded figure waking them up in their sleep. And like everyone in this household was having sleep paralysis. And their teenage son had been like drawing weird symbols and like writing in Latin in his sleep on like his notebook and shit. And so they asked for an exorcism done. And so we go to the barn attic and we leave one guy alone up there in a chair in the dark in the attic of this place. And he just starts screaming, dude. He just starts screaming. And we're hearing like stomping around with like heavy boots, dude, right? And so me and the other guys, we all run up there and the kid is sitting in the chair crying. And apparently there was like some farmer looking ass walking towards him as he's like just sitting in this chair. And it was like, he was like teleporting and he could just like hear his footsteps like everywhere, and it was just some really bizarre like ghost encounter. So I did the exorcism up there with my candles and stuff, and I called upon Prince Oribas, who's one of the demons of Ars Goetia, and I asked him to do a cleansing of the place with his powers, right, because he's a good spirit. And as I'm getting out of the trance, our friend Nakoa is staring at me, and there's a car alarm going off when I get out of it. Just like in the garage, we can hear a car alarm going off, and he's staring at me, and I hallucinated his face like all contorted, and like his eyes were going in two different directions, and he was just staring into my soul. And so I think that that was like a kind of like a last laugh from the spirit that I was expelling from the place because they didn't have any problems after that, but it was definitely frightening.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, so my for you. So did someone reach? You said someone reached out to you to do like this cleansing thing.
Yeah.
Now for okay, because I have very few knowledge. Like I'm not very knowledgeable in this area. But don't wouldn't you want to bring like a priest or like someone who's like
Hey, I've tried that before. With that house in Newport that I mentioned, the one with the demon that killed the kid, like the
yes,
fetus and all of that,
yeah.
a priest actually went there and he was too much of a pussy. And he left. He's like, there are no bad spirits here. And he left. And he like hightailed it out of there apparently.
Weird.
Like he barely even he didn't cleanse the place like at all. He just walked around and then dipped.
What was
So
okay? Okay, you know, keep
I
going.
feel like if there's priests that are like experienced in exorcism,
Mm-hmm.
like Ed and Lorraine Warren were, uh, which there basically aren't anymore. That whole basically line of work is going extinct. But I feel like unless the priest actually has like knowledge in that, they're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Well,
I feel like that was more common, like the old school priests.
yeah.
Like I feel
Right.
like the new generation. I feel like more and more, even in the within the church, they believe less and less of this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Which
Like in terms of clergy.
which I find very
I think
odd because I feel like even if I feel like nowadays it's more of like I mean like just like look at all the videos, look at how like I'm not gonna say popular, but like how much like exposure like this is getting as to like back in the day when it was like you said if you thought that your house had ghosts, you were just looked at as a crazy person. But
literally.
if me or you were to say like, "Oh, I have a ghost," it wouldn't be like it would just be like, "Oh, okay, tell me more about it." You know what I mean? So I feel like it's more
Right.
accepted today. But yeah, you're almost saying like in the clergy, it's more of like a getting away from this type thing. So that's
I would feel like I just feel like we're in a more of a nuts and bolts. We're like in a reductionist society. We like reduce everything to its basic form, and I have a hard time believing that the general population uh believes or cares. I don't know. Maybe
Right.
it's just me, but I have a hard time picturing it just from what I've seen and experienced.
Like,
Honest, I think it's just because, like, as a society, it's been televised so much that the whole concept of spirits has just been like turned into this abstract, like, ridiculous idea, and
Yeah,
just like being
it's like
brought
a
into the world. I
genre.
feel like that's how people are introduced to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
As
feel
a fiction.
maybe it's like maybe it's more of like it's either you because I feel like in a way it's like you're creating or you're exposing it to more people that could believe into it then I don't I don't know because I get that like there's almost like an oversaturation, there's CGI, there's all this stuff where it's just
Right.
like okay, yeah, okay, you saw a ghost, whatever. So it's to that point where like some people just don't even care. um but yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
another big thing, and I don't think people realize this, is that there's a difference between seeing a ghost and like seeing a ghost. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because like seeing something from the corner of your eye is never the same as seeing a full blown apparition like dart at you or something. You know what I mean? Or like fuck with you in ways you can't even imagine. Because like if you see that, the game's over. Like you go home. You know what I mean? It's like you get the fuck out of there because that thing is pissed. You know what I mean?
There is a YouTube channel. I don't know if either one of you have seen it or any of the audience members. This is not. I've never talked to the person or whatever, but it's called The Ghost of Carmel, Maine. He has a YouTube
Oh,
channel.
yo, I know him.
You actually
I
know
he
him?
lives he actually lives down the road from me.
Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
Kent Burris,
Get him
yes,
on.
Kent Burris from Ghosts of Carmel, Maine, and the Shadow Dude. His name is Edmund Lamb. That's the spirit, and he calls him the Shadow Dude. And he was a
Yes.
midget. He was a midget who got bullied by the whole town, and he was a mortician,
Whoa.
and he was also like rumored to be a murderer, and he's like actively finding bones under his house and stuff.
Why have I never heard of this?
You
You've
got to
heard of
look it up.
this?
Yeah, you got to look. Like
I wrote it down. I'm gonna look it up.
I've never heard of like
I've
this the whole
I've
story, but yeah.
Okay.
I've been in touch with him, and I'm going to be going there with some friends soon. And we're going to be starting season 2 of our show, Hunting Hollows, and that's hopefully going to be one of the stops.
Very
Could
cool.
could you do us a favor? If you could get us a contact number for him, we would love to have him. And if you want to be on the show too, and we can like all
Yeah,
do like this collaboration type thing. If we could get some contact information, because I love his videos, and like you as the audience member, if you don't know what I mean, exactly what Rain had brought up, there's a difference between seeing and seeing a ghost, and like he has video proof. Like he'll go like walking up the stairs and like turn the corner to go inside his bedroom, and there is an apparition just standing there.
yeah.
It gives me chills just talking about it. It is the craziest thing.
So me and Kent Burris actually have a bond.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
actually we're binded by a spirit.
Really?
Like I'm not even joking. We both investigated this place in downtown Bangor. There was a murder victim named Lisa Garland, and she was murdered, and it was very gruesome. And she was killed down at in downtown after drinking. That's where she was picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And people have one group called Central Maine Ghost Hunters got a picture of a shadow apparition of her, and she's rumored to still be there. And I contacted her while I was there several times, and that whole place was so haunted. And ever since then, she's occasionally followed me to like random places, and like she'll just like I'll be driving and I'll get a glimpse of her in the back of my car, and it's always the shadow apparition. And
Oh, man.
Kent Burris claims that she follows him too. When I was like watching when I discovered Ghosts of Carmel, Maine,
Yeah.
I was watching his videos, and he said that she also appears at the like Carmel house. Like he'll occasionally like see her there,
Dang.
and
That's the
it's
one
fucked
place
up.
I wouldn't want to be haunted
Been a
is in the
lot
car.
less frequent recently. Like that was a few years ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like as of recently, I haven't seen her as much. Thank fuck, because she's scary. But it's like the fact that she follows me and Kent Burris definitely makes me think that me and Kent should like go ghost hunting together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And isn't his house like he opens it up to people who like are non-believers and who think are like, yeah, this is just crap. Or
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, come stay at my house for a week.
right. The
It's
whole town knows how haunted because I live right down the road from the place, right? Like I
oh my
said,
gosh.
and this whole town, dude, like everyone knows the house. Like it is the one of the haunted houses. There's other haunted houses that are arguably worse, but his is one of the haunted houses around here, and it's like everyone knows to stay away from it.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it used to be like a where's the
A morgue.
yes, a morgue. It used to be like so. There's got to be just hundreds of spirits just there. I don't know. His videos are pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Seth, you're gonna like them. Like it's
Okay,
they're pretty
I'm
good.
excited.
They are long. They get kind of lengthy.
Yeah.
There's a YouTuber by the name of Nuke's Top Five. He features Ghosts of Carmel Maine a bunch on his. He cuts it up to like 30-minute videos and everything. Um,
Okay.
that's what I would do unless you want to like kill an hour, 2 hours watching his videos. It's up to you.
they're scary. They're
Yeah.
definitely very scary,
Yeah.
and like because it's Maine and it's a really small population, the paranormal investigators around here, we have kind of a community where we like actively talk to each other. So
Hmm.
like the people that are faking things get caught out pretty easily, and Ken is definitely one of the legit ones around here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It
I
seems like
wouldn't
it.
think you would last long as a grifter in this world.
I think you're right. I mean, like Rain, like you said, you can kind of like you can spot people that fake it, can't you?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Like there's been a few around here that like started like claiming random places were haunted and making videos there. And
Yeah.
it's like other people will go there too, like to investigate, and there's literally nothing wrong with the place, and you just have like a really boring time, and it's like, so you're lying. And then it's like literally if you're tech savvy at all, you can like just like, you know, look up the pictures and like reverse image search them and see if they're legit or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Do you?
sense.
How much equipment do you drag to these places?
Literally, I just bring like whatever I can fit in my bag. I have a couple spirit boxes, a couple EMF readers. I have a laser grid. I have a notebook for anything I might want to take note of while I'm there, and then
What's the
investigate
laser
into it
grid
further
for?
later. Um, Setting up the laser grid, you can see disturbances occasionally.
Okay.
And the myth of it is that you can see things like run across, like because it'll the dots will like kind of be closer to you than they are on the wall of the dark room
Okay.
because it's literally it'll look like an invisible figure running across, but the dots are on it.
They
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say they use that in I think like one of the paranormal activities. Like they're showing like how the X. I think this was like when the like, Xbox Live or like Xbox Connect. I think that's what it was. Like had first come
Oh,
out.
the cloud point. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's just all like I don't know, but
I saw that. Yeah, that scene was really creepy, but that's one of the things about Hollywood, man. You really can't trust them, you know, because
yeah.
like with how they illustrate stuff like that, it's
Mhm.
really far from reality. Because like in real life, it wouldn't have been like you see the ghost crawling around for like 10 minutes. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It would be
right,
like a
right.
quick glimpse and then it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. And that's my biggest beef. I think like I bring this up all the time with like Hollywood and like how things are portrayed between like reality and like what actually happened and everything. So like a perfect example. So the we did an episode about Travis Walton, who like I don't know if either one of you know who it is. It was an alien abductee. He got sucked up in Arizona and everything like that, but he wrote a book before the movie had come out, and then when Hollywood actually like did the movie, it was nothing like his actual experience. So when everyone like watches the movie, they think he had this like huge traumatic like weird suction cup to the table experience. I'm sure you guys.
Oh, is this fire
Yeah.
fire from the sky?
Fire in the Sky. Yep.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good movie.
But
Damn it.
it's nothing like what actually happened
Yeah.
though. So like his
Oh,
actual
damn.
book, it's really weird. But yeah, that's my biggest beef. I completely understand like the whole Hollywood like screwing things up aspect. Yeah, it's annoying.
I
Yeah.
have a question. Are
Hollywood's
you
definitely really obnoxious with stuff like that, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because it's like it really just takes. While it's fun to like fantasize, it also takes away from the reality of it, and that's
Yes.
like why people like me get laughed at for it a lot. Which I don't blame them. I think it's funny too.
Well, I mean, you started this as a joke.
Right. Which
have
honestly, that just fits my whole persona even more because it's really funny when people are like asking me about doing it, and it's like they don't understand that I think it's funny too. You know what I mean?
What were you gonna ask, Seth?
no, I want to know if you're familiar with Waverly Hills Sanitarium.
Me? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with Waverly Hills Sanitarium. I've had several friends that have gone there for a couple overnights, and they've said some pretty promising things about it. Currently, I
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
the
the
one
budget to do
place
the
I
whole
know of
trip
that
there, but
That's the one place I know of locally that is everyone says is pretty legit. I have a few questions from some videos. I think some people were kind of monkeying around, but it's like 2, 3-ish hours from me. And it's just the whole thing there is creepy. Like the history, like the amount of souls that went into that building is unreal because
right,
it was the tuberculosis ward, I believe. And they had the death tunnel. They had so many bodies they had to cart them in that tunnel to the train station. The train was like right there, the tracks. And
right.
that's just that's a creepy place. But I have wanted to go there so long. The people that own it, like the last time I checked, it was like booked to a ridiculous future date just to go.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can pay to go, almost like what you were saying, right? You can kind of like pay to go to these places and everything.
I haven't
Right.
checked in a few years with Waverly, but last time I checked, you could pay, and it was like several hundred for like, and you get like time allotments. You might get a portion of a night or a full night or whatever. Um, but yeah, man, I would totally do that.
Oh man,
See, one place that I investigated was it was Fort Knox, not the one that's all vaulted up and all that, but Fort Knox here in Maine, and it's been trending a lot recently with the ghost stuff, and that's local. And I'm actually a volunteer there. I built a park for the state there, just as like a volunteer like project,
yeah, nice.
And so I got to go on there a couple times for free, and every time it's been scary. And I have like a full access key to the place, and there's like spirits in different parts of it. The thing is, there was never a war there, but people were executed there, and people died during construction because it's like a fort in the ground, and that's what people don't realize.
Weird.
Hmm.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's really scary, and there's a show called Destination Fear that went there, right? And as much as I think they were staging a lot of it, just because what they found doesn't add up with what I found there.
Mm-hmm.
They were in an alleyway there called Two Step Alley, right? That's what everyone calls it. And they round the corner of Two Step Alley, and they hear on camera, they get these like heavy boot footsteps that are like sprinting towards somebody, right? And while I was there, I heard those exact same boot steps, only I thought I was hallucinating it. And I have it on camera somewhere. I should dig it up. That'd be a good idea because those are the exact same boot steps that I heard in like the exact same corner. And so I think that there's a lot of like residual energy there as well as like intelligent hauntings,
Yeah. Yeah, you should definitely do that and everything. I'm really interested to like take a look at your stuff too, and just like check it out and everything that you had said. So
Right. Well, like I said, this winter we're planning on getting the season 2 going, but Like I said, I'm in that punk rock band called Dragged by Chains. We used to be called White Lighter, but we're getting bigger now, and that's we're putting a lot of focus on touring and stuff, and so it just doesn't leave like as much time open for me for the ghost hunting gig.
You can kill two birds with one stone. Play the gig that night, and then immediately after go ghost hunting.
Only
Yeah, that
book
is a good
venues
idea.
next
That'd be
to like
fun.
haunted old buildings.
Yeah.
There's actually like a couple of venues we played that did tie in with our ghost hunting stuff, and that's always been really fun.
Oh
Nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Because like there's a few places that used to be like old like bars that were known to be like pretty bad, and like nowadays are music venues,
Hmm.
and they're still definitely haunted by all those scumbags in there.
You know, the one place I wish they hadn't torn down that would definitely be haunted is the ah H. Holmes house in Chicago. That place, because he was a serial killer, but he built traps all through the house, and had people come in the house, women, all kinds of stuff, and there would be like trapdoors that would go down to the basement. He like murdered so many people there. The city was so, and it was around the time of the World's Fair. So he was like grifting people for like contracts or something. He was like basically like a
Yeah,
Ponzi scheme guy, but he like got enough money to build this beautiful home, but it was full of booby traps. And he murdered a ton of people there, and the city was so sick of it after they like, I believe they killed him in like a mob. But the city was so sick of it they tore it down, which I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know how I feel about that because that's a nut story that would have been made into a museum and that would have been pretty cool.
Well, I've investigated a couple of like houses where people have been murdered. I investigated an apartment where a woman's body was shoved in the closet, and like things go flying around in that closet, and you can hear like things smacking on the door and stuff. There's also a house down the road from that demon house in Newport that I mentioned earlier. Um, there's a family that lived there back in the 90s, and I know somebody who was friends with the son of the family, and he died in his sleep in the basement. And then his mom drowned in the lake outside. And there was a family that moved in there not too long ago, and the husband actually murdered the wife. And that, like, literally, like, apparently lights were flickering and stuff. And, like, the cleanup crew was so creeped out that they literally, like, left blood and shit, like, where her body was,
That reminds
and
me.
nobody wants to buy the place. It's just like all the grass is overgrown. There's boarded up windows. Like it looks like a haunted house.
Reminds me of Amityville Horror, where there's like
Yes.
it's just like more bad things keep happening, or like yeah, that's yeah.
I want to know
Gosh,
if those photos of the kid peeking around, you know, that famous photo of the.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I
That
want to
wasn't
know if
me.
that's real because that could totally be staged, but it is just so fucking creepy. I mean, that is like
I
one of the
think it's real.
creepiest. It is so creepy. I
It
don't know
is.
what to
It's
say.
really creepy, especially when you look at the pictures comparing the kid to like pictures of the kid when he was
Yeah.
alive. That's so creepy.
What's also unnerves me, like the moment I saw that photo, is that the stair banister is very similar to the one in the house I grew up. Like my folks have like an old house, and the banister, the style, it just was like too similar, and then just add the creepiness from that photo. It was like every now and then I think of that photo, I'm like,
I mean, as
eh.
long as he didn't live on like
Yeah.
Long Island, New York, you should be fine.
wow.
But yeah, those pictures are definitely scary. I have a handful of pictures with apparitions I've caught in them. But it's like when I show people, they're either like, "Holy fuck," because how can you even Photoshop that? Or they're like, "You're batshit," or "You're messing with me. Get out of here." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, that answers all my questions, Rain, that I had. Seth, do you have any other ones for Rain?
I do not.
Rain,
Okay, well, that's cool. That's a wrap then for me. I mean, I don't have much else
Yeah,
to
I
talk
mean, it
about.
was a good interview.
yeah,
Thank you.
Rain. Before we actually sign off and everything like that, as far as the audience and everything like that, do you you have anything that you want to tell them as far as like ghost hunting in general? Do you support people just going out there doing it? Would you throw that caution up there for them? Any kind of like last little minute things for them?
If you really want to have like a good fucking ghost adventure, what you should do is just like take no safety precautions. Just be an asshole like I do and just go in there balls deep. Like no rubber. Just go right in there.
For so many deaths and accidents with that statement.
Yeah. But that's honestly just how you have the best time with it. Because like it's going to be, if you're going ghost hunting, it's probably because you want to be scared anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, if you really want to get scared, you also have to take the danger with it. You know, you're interacting with something real, you know, it's not like a tourist attraction, you know? So just remember the danger you're actually putting yourself in. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. But yeah, like they said, my channel's link will be in the bio or something, I think. So
Yep.
just check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, Rain, we'll get
Well, nice talking to you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Rain, thanks for stopping by, everything like that. We really appreciated you taking the time, everything like that. Just send me your information. We'll put it in the description. That way, anyone who, you know, is interested in your stuff, they can take a look at it.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Yeah.
Everything.
Thank you, man. You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, Rain.
And good night.
What'd you think?
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Like I didn't know, like at the beginning, I didn't know quite where this was going. And then he said something about the cow farts leading the way, and I'm like, wait a minute, did you get a troll?
I almost I thought like, yes, I was like, oh my gosh, like is this gonna be the tone of the interview of the rest of the time? Yeah. So I was kind of worried, but it, you know, like everything that he had said and everything like that, it was pretty interesting stuff. It'll be interesting to kind of like
for sure into it. Just like the extent that he just will rattle off all these different stories.